Nathan Gotch, thanks for joining the podcast.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I want to start with a question that most people leave for the end, and I want to actually start with this question. So my question is, if people listening to this episode took away just one thing to improve their search engine optimization, what would it be?
One thing, man, that's always a tough one. I would probably say for me, just because of my background in kind of being more kind of systematic in my SEO processes, I would say the most important thing would be to focus on actually systemizing your SEO process. I think the biggest danger is, starting a campaign and starting from scratch every single time, because it's just like in any other business. Like, McDonald's doesn't guess every time they make a hamburger. Right. And so even though there is a lot of variability in SEO, a lot of, nuance and little details that go into a campaign, there are some kind of standard parts that you can bake into a campaign that are kind of the same. And so pretty much, any situation you can build a system. So I would say that's the most important part. And plus, the biggest reason on top of that is when you build a system, you actually have a controlled environment where you can actually test and really learn, right? And if you don't have that, it's kind of throwing stuff against the wall. We can get into what that looks like, but that's for me, it would be the biggest piece.
Well, I have to follow up now and ask you what your system is.
Wow. That's depends on what we're
right
talking.
to it.
Yeah. Depends on, so I'll go high level and then we'll go deep. Okay. So the way that,
by the way, some background just for like people who don't know you. The 1 minute background is you were like one of the top people in search engine optimization. You've been teaching search engine optimization for a long time as well.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I've just been doing this for a really long time. So, when you do something for a long time, you get pretty decent at it. But yeah, I've been in so many campaigns, SaaS, local, e-com. I've seen so many different situations, so many unique variables and use cases that I've kind of created this, unique blend to understand to build systems the right way. So let me kind of walk through how I approach campaigns. Okay. And this will be specific to the current environment as well. So not just SEO, but obviously what we're dealing with AI platforms as well. So to actually build a good SEO system, you actually have to understand what a good system even looks like in the first place. Just disregard SEO altogether. You have to figure out like the proper structure. And so for me, the way we structure it is at the highest level, we have what would be called a playbook. Okay, so a playbook's like the broadest thing that you can build. So an example would be a local SEO playbook. Okay. Within a playbook, you have many individual units of systems. So in the case of local, system number one would be, let's build a client knowledge base. Okay, so that's the very first system at the beginning of the campaign. You want to build a client knowledge base because that's going to be kind of the brain for the whole campaign. So that would be a system. Now within that system, you've got individual SOPs, right? And each SOP, I call it a proof of work or definition of done. So one SOP is going to have some definition of done. So an example would be like, the SOP is extract reviews from a Google business profile. Okay. There's one definition of done, which is, did we extract all of those reviews? So that's why it's so critical, because I've seen a lot of people who create SOPs and they treat an SOP like it's a full system. An SOP should kind of complete one artifact or one kind of proof of work type of thing to really keep people focused. And so that's the logical process, right? So you've got the playbook is the biggest thing. Within the playbook, you're going to have, depends on what it is. In the case of local SEO, I think ours is about 10 systems within local SEO. And then within each system, you're probably looking at, depending on the complexity, it could be anywhere between 10 to as many as 30 SOPs within that one kind of unit. So does that make sense before we kind of move into the more specific details?
Yeah, you're getting really granular.
Yes.
That's the best way to actually accomplish things.
Correct. Yep. And also avoid mistakes, right? What you don't want to have, like, and obviously when I'm speaking in this, I'm speaking from the perspective of agency, right? And I'm thinking How do we get someone who, without any SEO experience, they just, first day on the job, they need to, spin up Hrefs and do some keyword research. Like, how are they going to be able to do that? I'm looking at my systems through that lens, which is like, okay, how do I make this basically get it to a point where it has a 90% success rate for that person, right? And 90% is like the threshold. If you can get to 90%, you're pretty solid. You can fix the other 10%, through meetings and all that good stuff.
This method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, "Each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower." Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast.
So that's the first part. So I don't know where you want to go. We could pick local SEO and go into it, or I don't know what direction you want to go with this. So yeah.
Actually, I think this is a good opportunity because I put out before you were coming on that you were coming on the show, and I got some questions from listeners for you. So this is a directly relevant question. So this is local, and so this comes from BSman5, who asked, insights for implementing service area pages, URL slug like root domain versus /service-area, content uniqueness, interlinking with other SAPs and or service pages.
Yeah, it's a few different questions in one. Okay, so talking about general structure, URL structure when it comes to service pages. This is probably, out of all the questions I get on local, this is one of the most common ones. And the good news is it's not incredibly complicated if you stick to kind of one principle. So and this is just my opinion, just based on what I've seen works in the field. Okay, everyone's got their own unique ways of doing things, but for me, my kind of universal principle when it comes to URL structure is that no matter how you slice and dice that URL structure, whether you have folders or whether you go off the root domain, it's your choice. But what matters the most is that keyword phrase appears in the URL. So if it's off the root, or if you got a nice folder structure, to me, I don't care, as long as it's showing up. And honestly, the AI is so good now that it can extract a URL and understand what it's about. So it doesn't need, we're not living in 2008 anymore with these systems. These systems are very capable of extraction and using NLP. They can understand what it probably is, and obviously pulling from other sources of context on that page as well. So, but the key part is one thing you can do is, if you were looking at that URL and you had no other context and you didn't have the root domain, would you know what it's about? And that's kind of the criteria we always go by. So you'll see it a lot on the local. I'll be like a personal injury lawyer, for example, and they'll have the root domain, they'll have /medical malpractice. Okay, where? Are we talking about medical malpractice? What is it? I don't know what the intent is there. I don't know if we're talking about generally, we're talking about a lawyer. We don't really know based on the URL. So just by adding lawyer in there, now we know, okay, now we're talking about a medical malpractice lawyer, but let's go to the next level. Well, there's a lot of medical malpractice lawyers in the United States, let alone, I really know outside of the US, honestly, as far as personal injury, but at least in the US, there's a lot. So the next obvious choice is okay, what state are they practicing in? Okay, so you got to figure that out. So now we need to have that state modifier in there. And then lastly, what city are they going after for this particular page? And I know that seems incredibly basic and super elementary, but I'm telling you, common sense is not common practice. And it happens all the time. I see it all the time on the local level. People just have these kind of generic slugs without intent being clear and without even location being clear. So that those are kind of like the two things I would be thinking about. And like I said, it doesn't matter if like you go right off the route, like, I don't know, medical malpractice lawyer, St. Louis MO. Like I've seen that work plenty of times, but I've also seen, a more kind of, if you're more systematic, like you're going to have, maybe it depends on if they're multi-location, but let's say they're just St. Louis, you'd maybe have like St. Louis and then medical malpractice lawyer, like split up in folders. So you could do that too. Works either way.
What's the biggest mistake you see with service area pages? The most common mistake?
Oh, the most common mistake, hands down, is treating a service page, which is designed to convert, like an informational asset.
Oh yeah,
And I see
that's a
this,
big one.
I see it all the time. Yeah. You'll see like the exact example I just gave, medical malpractice lawyer. You'll see a lot of the time someone will look almost like an article, right? It'll be like an article, but the intent is to convert. So someone's going to go to that page and say, I'm not going to read all this. I'm here to solve a problem. They're going to send negative signals against this page because it's not actually fulfilling the intent of what they came for. So it always comes down, like when you study the keywords, like what is the appropriate page to actually help the user get what they came for, right? And if it's obviously has commercial intent, you should structure the page to convert, especially for
Like a
local
landing page.
Yep, exactly. So, and another, if you want to have a little kind of mental model for this, if you're looking at a keyword and instead of thinking about, okay, I'm going to go build a page for SEO, right? Instead, what you think about is if I had to drive paid ads, if I had to drive advertising to this page through Google ads, Google search ads, would this be the page that I would build? 9 times out of 10, no one is going to say yes, based on what a lot of people do. They say, no way, I'm going to put a form above the fold. I'm going to have a good offer. Like they're going to go through the thinking of conversions, not the thinking of SEO. So I always start with the conversion first when it's a commercial based, keyword, and then SEO comes second. So I think that just kind of helps get that squared away.
I was going to say, for my most common mistake that I see with service area pages is doorway pages, is that they're just completely identical.
Yep. That's
which you can get. Yeah. I see that all the time, which people can get in a lot of trouble for. I want to ask you, above the fold, when you have I call them bottom of funnel SEO landing pages, conversion based landing page. Are you use like a button so like a button that says, contact us or get a quote or talk to us, things like that? Or do you actually just put the form, especially if it's services, do you put the form right there above the fold?
I think having multiple units of conversion in there are useful, but I think it does depend on the industry. So for example, like for HVAC, we'll just go, HVAC. The most important conversion mechanism there is a phone number, like a visible phone number that can be called above the fold at any time. So an example is like, when it comes to I'll give you a kind of an anecdotal example. This is like maybe 3 years ago. It was about cold weather where you are, but it was dead of winter in St. Louis in February. It was like negative 15 degrees or something. It was like really, really bad. And it's like right about to go to bed, furnace shuts down at our house, right? Furnace just goes out completely. So that's the moment, right, where you got to call up a company and like, I need you to get out here like now, like not like tomorrow or in a week. No, like you need to come now. My family's cold. Like this is a serious situation. So that's why like it is highly dependent on the niche or the industry. So like in HVAC, like you having an emergency line where they can call right now is going to be really, really critical. And in fact, when it comes to some of these industries, it's not like these people that are searching, they're doing extensive research on these companies. They're usually just going with whichever one answers their phone first, right? So, and obviously the ones that are ranking,
true.
The ones that are ranking well. So I think it depends. Like for personal injury, longer sales cycle, lots of discovery. There's a lot of things that go into that. So, you have to be so aggressive, like call now, like, cause probably not need to solve their problem like right this second. So I think that's why I'm being a little nuanced about it, because I think it is kind of dependent. But I am a big fan for a hero section, and I like left right format. It's just my kind of go-to. So headline, subhead, And then it just depends. Like if we're going to have a video, maybe a video to the right and then a CTA to the left. And then I do like to drive the CTA to a dedicated kind of like distraction-free conversion page. And it's just because I like to kind of follow the funnel in a logical order like that, just for my own personal preference in that way. But I think either way can work. So yeah.
I do the same exact thing. That's like
Yeah.
I have templates for bottom of funnel SEO landing pages, and if it's not like an e-commerce collection page, I do the same thing.
Yep.
And then like you satisfy intent immediately above the fold, and then like if it's a commercial keyword, a bottom of funnel keyword, you use the rest of the page to explain why you are the right choice to go with that keyword. Just above the fold is like, we are going to do exactly what you are looking for. And then below the fold is, here are all the reasons why we're going to do it the best. And then you have another call to action at the bottom of the page.
Exactly.
And yeah. How do you structure like collection e-commerce pages?
Yeah, those are the trickiest because, obviously, and this is, and not to plug Rankability here, but like we've studied a lot of category pages in e-commerce, and we'll talk about what not to do first. We'll still start with the not to do list on these huge blocks of text that push all the products down below the fold. That's like one of the worst decisions that can be made. And in fact, when you look at like the biggest e-commerce, let's take Nordstrom, for example. Usually all they have on their page is a bunch of products, one H1 tag, and usually one sentence to describe those products. I mean, that's basically it, right? But what's really intelligent here is the feed of products will have relevance in the descriptions of the product. So that creates more context, that creates more relevance on that page. So what I've found is like the best thing to do is like real clean, real minimalistic with a focus on the products, but sneaking in the SEO where it can kind of make sense, right? And obviously the most logical places, title, meta description, H1, first sentence. I would say above the fold, you really shouldn't have any more than 2 sentences. I mean, if you're pushing more than that, you're getting into territory where like you're just doing this for SEO, you're not doing it for users. And that's generally not a good idea. And then there's the obvious thing that people do is below the products, there'll be a big block of text that's just designed to juice Google. I haven't found that to be incredibly effective a lot of the time. I don't like, as long as the page is structured well, it's fast, and users are interacting with the category page, that seems to do a pretty good job. I think what matters more is building support around category pages. I think that's more effective on e-commerce, just my personal opinion. And then of course, the biggest one is getting backlinks. So yeah.
What do you mean by building support around category pages?
Yeah. So this is like the most untapped thing I see with a lot of people doing e-com. So one thing that I will do is sometimes we'll intentionally publish pages just with the intent to get intel about that topic. So an example of this is like we'll launch, let's say it's yellow prom dresses. Okay. So we're going to launch yellow prom dresses and we're going to get that index. We're going to get it in the top 100. And then we're going to go into Google Search Console in the next 3 months. And we're going to look at all of these queries that are popping up on this one URL. And then we're going to sort it by position. And so we'll sort it by like worst position down. And what we're going to find is like any keywords that are popping up beyond positions 50 and beyond are usually good candidates for splintering off and building a dedicated page that can support that page. So usually don't know these keywords though, because they don't pop up in Ahrefs or SEMrush or any of the keyword tools because they just don't have volume a lot of the time. So you can really only get them through Google Search Console, and you can really only get them through publishing more content. It's kind of a weird thing like that. And so an example would be like, you might find that there might be something like yellow prom dresses for mother of the person going to prom. Like it gets real specific with intent.
Yellow prom dresses with sparkles.
Yes, exactly. Different variants, different things. And so then you have to make the decision is like, okay, do we take this little tiny keyword and do we find an opportunity to kind of inject it on that one category page? Or, we do additional research and we come to find out that like an example would be like a short yellow prom dresses versus long yellow prom dresses, right? So a variant there. We might find that when we look at the SERPs that like there are a lot of competitors that have specific category pages for long versus short. And if we see that that's the case, that's usually we go to the SERPs to kind of get the intel there. Then it's a good, probably a good idea to splinter it off and create a dedicated page. So that's what I mean by building support in that way. One nuance on this though is like, and I do think people take the SERPs too seriously to make decisions. So like they'll look at the SERPs and they might say, okay, well, there are no competitors that have built, yellow prom dresses with sparkles. So therefore we're not going to do that. Right. That actually can be a huge mistake because sometimes someone has to be the first mover. Right. And so you may want to test building out that page and see, because we've done that so many times where like we see the competitors are like, just, I don't know, they're asleep at the wheel on some particular keywords. We go splinter off and like we rank in like 24 hours. And then, whoever, there is this element of like ranking first actually does make it harder for people to beat you. Right. Because you start getting all the CTR data. Yeah. You might start getting some natural links just by ranking well, like with of these
anchor text.
Exactly. So these signals kind of will help solidify you even further. And then by the time, competitors are slow, 3 months from now, they say, hey, I saw they built out that page. You probably already have a head start. It's going to make it harder. So I would just say, don't look at the SERPs as like law. I would look at it as kind of a way to inform, but like also don't be afraid to, run some tests. So, yeah.
Nathan, I'm like shaking my head so vigorously, I'm getting dizzy because like, I'm just like, I just like so strongly agree with everything that you're saying. I want to, we talked about this in a good amount of detail, but I guess I'm going to ask for an even more concrete answer because it's one of the most common questions that personally I get in search engine optimization. You probably get it all the time as well, which is when do you know whether or not you should create a new page for a keyword or include that keyword on an existing page?
A great debate.
Yeah. And your answer already was like pretty good. You're looking at the SERPs, you're seeing what people are doing, but it also comes down to intent and what you already have.
Yeah, I think intent is the most important piece for me. Like if I didn't have the SERPs and I had to make the decision, that's kind of what I think about, right? So when I look at that keyword, I'm like, realistically, because it costs money, right? It costs money to create a new page. Costs time, costs money, costs resources, costs effort and focus. Like these are things that have to be considered. And for me to splinter off and build a dedicated page, it has to really be worth it, right? And sometimes there's some topics that like you could answer just in a little FAQ, right? You certainly could do that. Like it doesn't warrant a huge, build on a new page, right? So it's really, really highly dependent on the intent. For me, it's like to splinter off, either I see an opportunity where like the competitors are really lacking, like, and I'm like, okay, this keyword really has different intent. Like no doubt about it. When people search this, they're looking for something very, very specific. I'm going to take the gamble, even though there's no proof. I'm going to take that gamble and I'm going to go for it. And I would say usually I'd say like 9 times out of 10 that has done well. But I'll tell you some situations where it hasn't done well. Okay. It's actually a YouTube example. Okay. So I had a page that was how to get 4,000 watch hours on YouTube. Okay. So that was like that was the blog post. And I saw there was this really long tail phrase. It was like, I forgot the exact phrase, but it's very long. And I took this same strategy. And I was like, I think this has different intent. So I'm going to go and splinter off. So I splintered off. I took the content off of that page, then built a dedicated asset. And come to find out, Google just cannibalized them. For whatever reason, it just would not rank that page. So performance went down on that keyword because I removed it, and it just like refused to rank that page. And even when that page got into the index, it actually performed worse than the original page, right? And so when I see those signals, I'm like, okay, something's off here. So what I did is like, all right, I'm gonna take it back. So I pushed it back into the asset, and of course, rankings recovered overnight. So there's sometimes like, I think one thing that's helpful, at least the way that I do SEO, is I don't view SEO as like a static operation. Like I'm doing stuff and I'm seeing how the algorithms are responding to what I'm doing. Sometimes it responds weirdly. A lot of the times it doesn't, because usually I'm, do pretty good educated guesses. But when something goes weird, that's actually where I learned the most, right? About that one particular situation. But it's crazy. Like in every industry is different. Every campaign is different. Like what works in one campaign doesn't always necessarily apply in the next campaign. But that's why you have to test, right? And I think too many people play SEO like in scared mode. They're not playing on offense. And like I play campaigns on offense. And that's why we're pushing pages out. We're running tests. Like we're doing that to see like, okay, like, cause the goal is to win, right? This is not for charity, right? We're trying to actually we're trying to win a game here. And I think people like, they try to get like, this has to be a perfect situation before I run it. It's like, no, just publish a post. What's the worst that could happen? Like you could literally revert it back. Like it's not a huge deal. Like we're not solving world hunger, a lot of the time. So yeah.
How critical is like auditing a site in your system, in your workflow? And what are the three things, when you do audit a site, what are the like three things that you look for, the three biggest mistakes that you see?
Once again, dependent on the industry and the vertical. So like, for example, if we're referring to technical audits, technical audits for local, probably not a huge, resource thing that you're going to invest there, just because, and actually let me revise that. It's actually not even the fact that it's local. It's usually actually based on the size of the website. So like if it's a website that has less than 100 pages, like doing technical SEO is not going to really deliver much ROI. Assuming you've taken care of the big heavy hitter technical SEO things. But like, if you have a 100-page site and you go and fix a broken link, it's not going to do anything. Like it's literally not going to move your rankings probably at all. But let's talk about the heavy hitters that I think are applicable to basically any situation, especially now with AI, right? So there's some things that are, they're kind of the same, but there's some nuance there. Okay, so number one, let's start with the most obvious: crawling, indexing, and retrievability. I've now because prior to AI was basically just crawling and indexing, but now I've added retrievability into my stack, which is like,
interesting.
It's different because it's not technically a crawl and it's not technically being indexed when it comes to AI, right? So it's going directly and retrieve, so you can do direct retrieval from an AI platform right now with ChatGPT. So if you say, go to rankability.com, it will do direct retrieval, pull back and tell you what it's about. So it can do that. Even in our tool, we have direct retrieval that we've built into our tool where we can go and like, give me this URL and extract the content. We go and extract the content. So that is different than crawling, right? It's a different kind of mechanism because it's chunking and doing different things. So I've kind of split those up. The good news is like, if you follow standard best practices for crawling and indexing, that actually leads to good retrievability. So unless you're like using Cloudflare and you're blocking the AI bots, so not a good idea. I would not do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it does.
Cloudflare has that by default.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Unless you have an older account, they didn't turn it on. So
right.
That's, yeah. So but new accounts, they are turning on, which I think is quite diabolical. Okay, so that's like the most important layer. If you don't get that right, nothing else matters, right? You just have to get that right. So then the next thing is, and I guess I should probably mention what affects those. The obvious things: robots.txt file, and I don't put a lot into those categories because all the stuff that's after influences it so much. So for me, like the next layer would be obviously loading speed. Once again, loading speed. Highly debatable topic about core web vitals and all that stuff. But it's pretty undeniable that loading speed affects conversions. So
yes.
So for me, I don't really care about the SEO piece. I care more about
pogo sticking.
And pogo sticking. Yeah. So like I care more about the user experience and the conversion element of it. And so for me, I'm like, it's a no-brainer. Let's make it fast. That's a good idea. If it helps SEO, that's even better. But I'm really focused on like user experience. And plus, we found too, when it comes to AI retrieval and the AI coming to your site, it is really intolerant of slow websites, like even worse than traditional search crawlers. So we've actually, it used to be like our bare minimum was like 3-second page load speed, like sub 3 seconds. We've actually moved that down to 2 seconds. So we've made it actually even a lower criteria to make it even faster, for AI specifically.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure, but I just know that it seems like the AI will skip a lot faster. Like when it's going through, like if it's, let's say it's doing deep research, for example, it's not going to wait for a page to load. It's just going to go and just keep, trying to find its answers. So it's not like, it seems to be really intolerant of like really slow loading pages. We've just seen that to be the case. I don't know the mechanisms behind as to why. I mean, I guess I know the reason why is because obviously it's a drag on resources for them, right? So for the AI platforms, but that's the only thing I could deduce, because it can get blocked by various things. Server loading slowly when they go to that site. So loading speed, that's a no-brainer. Then number 3 for me is site architecture. So that's a really big one, because site architecture really influences crawling and indexing and so many other elements. So that's pretty simple though for me. There's like kind of 2 mechanisms I'm looking at. Number 1 is crawl depth. So basically, making sure that every page is no more than 3 clicks deep. And then the next one is with Screaming Frog. One of the core columns I'm always looking at is unique in links. So go to unique in links, make sure that the pages have, usually we'll flag it if it has less than 5 internal links, it'll get flagged. And it doesn't mean like, it doesn't mean we're going to act on it, but it's more just like, hey, let's take a look and see why is this page not getting any coverage? When you start to do that investigation, sometimes you'll find that like this page just doesn't have any supporting content, right? So that's why it doesn't have coverage. So then that gives us kind of a little project to work on, which is like, okay, let's build more support for this page. So then we can get the internal link coverage that it actually deserves, right? It could also be just as a bad page and should be deleted. So that's also another separate thing altogether. But yeah, those are kind of like the 3 big ones. And then the one I did mention, which you actually already kind of mentioned here, which is HTML. And I know it seems incredibly obvious, but as someone who's an aggressive vibe coder, it is one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing right now is people using Replit or Lovable or any of them, and they're pushing out these JavaScript-based websites that are not crawlable very well. Google claims they can render JavaScript, but I don't trust them. Like HTML is a proven format that both traditional search engines and AI platforms love. So we know that is a fact. So it's better to just go that route. A little nuance on this, like our whole website, Rankability, is built on Replit. Okay.
Wow.
So there is a way to use HTML in these platforms. It's just there's some workarounds you have to go through. So like, and this gets a little technical, but basically the way you can do it on Replit, I'll just describe very quickly. You go into Replit. This is how you're going to do it. Okay. You have to do a very, very simple prompt. So let's say you're going to build a client website on Replit. You go in there and you say, build me a 1-page website for an HVAC business in Chesterfield, Missouri. Just a 1-page website. Okay. And it will do that. It will go through its thing. It will pump out some 1-page website that will be JavaScript and will not be crawlable, right? You can even go and inspect the code and like, you won't see any text on it at all. So then what you do, the very next move is you say, okay, now I need you to convert this website to HTML via Astro, right? So it has to be Astro specifically because that's like the best language. So then you do that and it will actually convert it. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is it's very strange is if you go into Replit and you try to do that on the first prompt, it will say it can't do it. I don't know why it's like that. It's very strange. And I've tested this a lot and it'll say, oh, sorry, I can't do that. I just cannot do that. But for some reason, as soon as you actually get into the project and you say, okay, now convert it, it does it well. Okay. So yeah, that's how I've been able to do it with the sites. And in fact, 6 months ago, if you tried to do this, it was brutal. It was a brutal experience just trying to get it to work. There was a lot of mistakes. But now because these platforms have gotten so good, I actually just did one yesterday. It only took 2 prompts to get it right. So pretty insane, honestly. So, and Astro, by the way, is like insanely fast loading. Like it's the fastest loading, basically structure you could probably have, as far as I know. There's downsides to it too, right? Like it's not a CMS. So you kind of have to build a CMS layer on top of Replit to make it work if you want to do that, or you can do a headless CMS with WordPress. So that's what we do. So like our blog is run through WordPress. We do a headless setup. So then whenever we can actually modify the design via Replit, and that doesn't affect, it's not through WordPress anymore. It's only the content is through WordPress, and that comes in, it has our, theme and design and all that stuff. So it can be done is the point I'm saying, but HTML is critical.
How are you doing SEO tests for your vibe coded sites?
It's actually, oh my gosh, it's just so exciting. I cannot stress this enough. And it's almost like, I feel like I'm kind of cheating when I'm like with our site set up, because like I can do technical SEO basically with no effort. It's literally insane. Like I can do technical SEO just by prompting the AI to fix things. Like the site, let's say I got a whole batch of URLs that are loading slowly. Okay, go in there, paste in the URLs. Like these pages are loading slowly. We need to work through and fix these. And it'll say, okay, well, would you like to fix these individual URLs, or would you like me to do systematic changes that affect the entire site? And I'm like, systematic. Let's redo the whole thing. So like that seems very simple, but like being able to do that is like just such a game changer, because before, hire a developer. Like, for example, I'm not a developer, right? I'm not a developer or coder. So I would always have to find a developer to come in and fix like the really technical stuff. Not anymore, right? And even small things like accessibility, right? Like there's lots of businesses in the United States that are getting sued all the time because of accessibility violations. So you can, with Replit, you can go and say, okay, audit our website for accessibility so that we can avoid getting sued. So then it will audit the whole site for accessibility and identify all the flaws on the site that could trigger, accessibility lawsuits, right? So there's a lot of things. As far as testing, it's the same exact thing. You could run A/B tests very easily with the simple setup on Replit. Yeah, so that can be done as well. Yeah, depends on what test you're doing.
When you say you're having Replit make fixes, does that mean that you are migrating existing sites?
I've migrated all of our owned properties. Yeah. So it's still early as far as me trusting to do a client site on Replit. Yeah. But I do think it is possible. I'm getting more brave as the days go on. Let's just say that.
So I think this is a really interesting question. So what steps do you take to migrate a site to Replit? How are you giving Replit all the critical information?
Yeah. So it depends on the size of the site. I would be afraid to probably do like a site that has thousands of pages. I'd be a little nervous about that. But the way that you can do it is you can basically export all the content in Markdown. So that's kind of the default language for AI, basically, that it understands the most. So you would export all the content in Markdown. You would go into into Replit and say, we're going to be doing an import of all of this content. And of course, you need to make sure you have the structure in place structurally for the site. And then you say, this is where this content's going to go. And so it's a process, right? Just like migrating any other site.
Are you letting Replit like make new designs, basically, just like it's designing it however it sees fit, or are you giving it screenshots?
Okay, so there's a lot of detail on this point. So if you use Replit out of the box, it's going to create kind of generic AI coded junk, which it does a lot. It'll be purple and orange and oh, it's so ugly. Like it's just so bad when you let it do its own thing. So I've learned a few things about this. Number one, wireframing is really, really important. So just actually even before wireframing, getting the copyright is the first part. Like get the copyright, then think about the wireframe. I'm talking about commercial pages here. So copywriting, then the wireframe. Now the wireframe part is interesting because sometimes I will have Replit build the wireframe, but other times right next, on my screen, I'll usually have ChatGPT 5.2 running as well, or I'll have Gemini. So it just depends on my mood. But that's usually like, I'll have that running. I'll usually have one of those build a wireframe. I've just found it's better at doing that when I kind of seed it. So I do the wireframe and then that comes over to the site. Now, what I will do, this is an important check to have in Replit, is always upload your brand style guidelines, always upload your color scheme, and upload your fonts for the website. So you upload that into the database. So every time that a new page is created, Replit's always creating with the same guidelines. This is really important because the AI loses context as soon as the next day comes. So like if if you're working super hard one day, you're like, oh, I'm killing it today. I'm just launching and I'm just doing all this stuff. Then the next day you're like, okay, I need you to go and fix this one thing. I'll be like, either we'll say it doesn't remember, or it will go and do it. And you'll be like, why did you just do that? We just did all this work yesterday and you just like deleted my whole website. Like it literally, the memory resets. It like actually resets. The AI like will reset. I don't know what the time period is. It's a really big problem with the memory. So like ChatGPT has good memory because it's all baked into your account. But for some reason on Replit, I've probably found that it's got to be less than 12 hours, give or take. So another little hack for this, which I've learned, because I've made a lot of mistakes, by the way. I've had to rebuild many websites on Replit because it's absolutely just murdered my website multiple times. That doesn't happen anymore. There's a couple of key things that will help a lot. Number one, always push your changes at the end of the day to GitHub. So push them, please. Just do this. It's the most important thing you can do. When you've spent all day just like shipping features and shipping content, whatever it is, push it to GitHub, right? Because that's the source of truth. No matter what happens on Replit, you've still got your safety net there. So that's really, really important. Another thing is too, which I've gotten the habit of doing because the AI for some reason won't always do this. Let's say you just built out like 25 pieces of content on your website, right? So, or let's say you did a batch of content, you fixed accessibility and you fixed loading speed in one day, right? You just went crazy. The next thing you want to do is tell the AI to document this in the replit.md file. Okay. This is so critical. I cannot stress this enough because that file is like what it goes through every time you start a new session. It looks at that. That's like the source of truth for the AI to get context. So, and I've made this mistake a lot because I used to think that it would update it automatically, but it doesn't. It will sometimes, but I don't trust it enough to say like, just let it run loose. So whenever I do a big project, the next prompt I give is like, okay, update the MD file. Update the MD file. I keep doing that over and over. I do that probably 20 times a day, right? Because it's so important that it gets updated and refreshed because I know tomorrow I'm working with a new AI basically, right? And its only understanding of my application is that file. That's it, right? Otherwise it has to dig through the application and the files to understand what's going on. And I don't know if you really want it to be doing that. So anyway, there's some like checks in place. Now, as far as the UI and design, this is a little hack I learned, which has been so helpful. There's not the exact URL, but it's like Tailwind CSS or something like that. You can buy UI blocks. Okay. So like custom built UI blocks. So you could like buy, like a hero section, right? And it will give you like the HTML. So you literally copy the HTML, you put it into Replit and you say, okay, now I need you to design this hero section with this HTML. Right. And it will be like beautifully designed and it will maintain all of your standards and all that stuff. So that's what I found is the best way to do it, because if you just rely, like the AI is not bad at designing. It's just kind of, it's lifeless. Yeah. Right. That's kind of what it ends up with. So and there's other things too. Like I have a team that does graphics and stuff, so we can bring that stuff in. But for the most part, those, I've kind of went deep on this, but I do it a lot. So yeah.
I can tell that it sounds like if I were to guess what you are most passionate about in SEO at the moment, sounds like this. Sounds like this is what it is. Yeah.
Hands down. I mean, it's scary, man. I like when I'm able, the things I'm able to do at the speed that I'm able to do them, it's unbelievable. Like I don't even know, like I think there's a future, and I know this might be, I can't really predict this, but I think there's a future for agencies where you could potentially have agencies that are less than 5 people that are making multiple 7 figures a year. I think that is entirely doable. I don't think you need to have huge teams anymore. And I know makes people nervous, right? I know that's a scary thing, but the truth is, once you see what these things can actually do, the people that are going to like really thrive in this environment are the people that are using them and the people that are executing on their ideas, right? Because like, Coding has been commoditized. Content has been commoditized. Even execution has been commoditized. So the thing that really matters are the ideas, right? And the ideas, and pretty much anyone with an idea can execute now. There's literally no excuse. It's not easy, but it can be done. It can be done. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about it. So it's pretty cool.
Are you putting up like mass amounts of, because the thing about the bottom of funnel SEO landing pages that we were talking about is oftentimes the keywords are they're very overlooked and non-competitive and really easy. It's just really easy. So my question is, are you putting up, are you using AI to put up a lot of these pages at once? Or are you still like staggering it out, also manually proofreading every page that goes out? Do you have a process for it?
Yeah, my criteria for whether I use AI or not is largely dependent on competition. So higher competition, I'm almost always going to have a human deeply involved in it. So like an example would be like I have a post that ranks for best SEO books, right? It's ranked for many, many years. And that post I knew would be highly competitive. Like even when I was building it, I was like, I know this is going to be really competitive. There's basically zero chance I'm going to rank with just some kind of AI slop, right? It's not going to work. So that one, I invested a lot of time. I actually went and purchased, I think it was like 30 SEO books on Amazon. I actually purchased like 30 of them and I read all of them. So I read all of them and then I created this blog post and I said, these are the best SEO books. And I actually read the books. Trust me, it was a pretty crazy idea. So I did that.
Very crazy.
Yeah. And
you must have been bored out of your mind.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. Some of the books were tough, but I got through it. But the reason why I did that is because I knew that experience is a very, very powerful lever. And it's really, really powerful right now because there's something that I'm calling anti-AI content. So there's certain content types that you should basically avoid like the plague, right? So like any content that AI can easily answer, or at least answer at 80% as well as you can, pretty dangerous stuff. So like an example would be like, what is SEO? Okay. I'm not going to be creating any content about what is SEO. Those days are over, right? What is a backlink? What is anchor text? What is anything like that? The AI is just going to slaughter any human. There's no chance. It's too fast. It can do too much. You can't beat it there. But there are areas where you can beat the AI, right? And the one area is the AI cannot experience anything. Just can't. It can't experience what it's like to hold a phone. It can't experience what it's like to use this marker. It can't do any of that stuff. So that's the one advantage we have right now is like the experience side. That's the one moat that humans still have. And I think that's really, really important. Some other things is like even anecdotal stuff, like, stories from your customers, right? Those are things that like the AI doesn't have customers. It can't do that, right? So like identifying those kind of like things that the AI literally just simply cannot do, that's what's going to enrich the content going forward, especially for like really competitive stuff. Just doing AI slop, even if you're doing deep research and you're doing all of the things that you can do to make that content comprehensive and relevant, it's not going to work because it's not adding anything new. There's no information gain for those. And even if it does work, you probably won't stick, right? And so we found that like we certainly can rank content that's just based on pure relevance. That does work. You can literally just look at the top competitors, build the most relevant asset possible, use AI to build it for you. It does work. It will rank. But the question is like, will it stay? And that's the big question. And there's obviously some elements as to why it will stay. If you have a lot of authority, you can get away with more. Just a natural thing. But yeah, I mean, as far as it like whether I use AI or not, it's usually based on competition. The other one too is we've used AI for a lot of case study content. So for example, what we'll do is we'll get a lot of unique input. So like we'll do best CMS for SEO, right? So we've done this study. I think we're on like third revision of this. The first two were me writing it. The last one was AI. And it performs just as well because I believe that as long as the inputs are unique, doesn't matter whether you used AI or humans, doesn't make a difference.
What's the best CMS for SEO?
See, that's a trick question because there really isn't a best CMS for SEO. right? So it's what CMS tends to appear the most in the search results. It doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean which one has some advantage. It is WordPress appears the most, right? But the question is it because it's WordPress or just because more people use WordPress? That's kind of the debate. But in fact,
It's a nuanced answer. I've seen
yeah,
Squarespace do really, really well.
Squarespace was in our data. Yeah, it popped up. Same with Webflow was a more recent addition. A lot of Webflow sites
Yep.
popping up. But funny
Yep.
enough, you know what the number one, and this is like a kind of a weird one. It's not having a CMS at all, which is kind of a
Whoa.
weird thing. Yeah, actually having
Whoa.
a headless CMS is the most common ranking. Now, that's also because like Amazon, for example, ranks for a ton of stuff, and they have a headless CMS, right? So like the data is highly distorted in that way, but still, you know, if you were to exclude those, I think WordPress is like 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
So, and we only studied 10,000 keywords. So you could do a bigger study and maybe get different data, but it's a pretty good set. So
WordPress was a predictable answer,
yeah,
but I mean, it's also like, what are you comfortable with? And then it's like there are some that just aren't. Go High Level has worked on their SEO, but it's like, is it going to have all the functionality for SEO that you want as Squarespace or WordPress? I'm not really sure. Like they just recently put in subfolders in Go High Level, so yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think as far as like ease and capability, WordPress is pretty hard to beat because like WordPress it's your oyster. You can do whatever you want with it, right?
Wouldn't really say
So
for ease. I would say for capability, because I
yeah,
think
well that's
WordPress
true.
has
There's definitely easier ones.
WordPress
Yeah,
is
yeah,
really
yeah.
like when I first had my WordPress site, I put in a million plugins. It was slow as hell. It like I just did everything wrong because I'm like, oh yeah, plugins are the solution to everything. And like, yeah,
Right.
let me have like 100 plugins here. And like everything was breaking. There were all these dependencies. And so I don't think WordPress is the easiest. It's easy when you know how it works, but I think I would say that Squarespace is the easiest, and WordPress is, I don't know if it's the most capable, but it's extremely capable.
Yeah, I think you're right with the more like drag and drop type of platforms are not.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah, I would agree. I definitely agree on that. One thing that's funny too, going back to the Replit discussion, like that's another area. Like I don't have any plugins.
Yeah.
There's no plugins. So like when I like let's say on WordPress, like I used to have a pretty links plugin, right? So it'd be like, you know, create pretty links and like why did I need a plugin just to create a pretty link? Like that's insane. Because all it does is basically just, you know, it redirects to your affiliate link, right? That's all it really
Yeah.
does.
I just use a
So
redirection plugin.
yeah. So, but with Replit, I just build that inside of the platform and then I
Yeah.
don't need to actually have a plugin, right? Because it's such a simple build. Like AI can build that in literally 3 seconds.
Of course.
So like WordPress, we load up all these plugins just to do simple one use case type of things. Just seems inefficient, honestly.
I've
So
actually started, what I've started doing is basically, I've just started having Claude. Like if it's like one really simple thing, I will just have Claude make code for me.
that's,
So
yeah,
actually I did this just yesterday. This is crazy. I made like a 7-second video on TikTok, just a reminder for everybody to replace the date in their footer, the copyright date in their footer. Everyone forgets to do it. I forgot to do it. And I noticed that mine said 2025. I put up this video on TikTok. It's up to like 150,000 views overnight. Just a seven
nice.
second video just saying, yeah, replace the date in your footer. And then everyone's like, you idiot, you should just have code for that so it's automatic. And I'm like, oh shoot, I am an idiot. I should do that. And so I had Claude just make like a quick short code that it says like current date, and now I have that in the footer and I don't have to think about it anymore. But
Yep.
and some people were like, you could download a plugin for that. I'm like, why am I going to download a plugin for that?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
pollution. I'm not going to pollute my site like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I love WordPress. I think it's literally like like if I were to do any other thing other than vibe code, I would do WordPress. But yeah, I just think it's, you know, I think WordPress will probably come out with something maybe that is more kind of AI centric, maybe where you can like prompt inside of WordPress and it can go and do things inside of your WordPress site. I don't think it's there yet. So
Yeah.
as far as I know, there's a few other platforms like Hostinger. They've got a situation where you can actually like build a WordPress site using AI. You can do that, but I've tried so many of these platforms nothing compares to Replit as far as I'm concerned. As far as the flexibility to do what you want, it's unlimited flexibility. Not saying it's perfect, by the way, but
No, vibe coding, vibe for like so one of my business partners came on, I think it was last week, and he's using anti-gravity, and he said like everyone is sleeping basically on vibe coding tools because it was only recently that the models got good enough where they're not constantly making mistakes. And
Yep.
this is only been a recent thing. And so he's using anti-gravity, and I see him for one of our apps. I see him making 2 months, because we've hired dev shops before, or he's coded it himself. He's making 2 months worth of iterations in an hour on a
Yep.
live app in production with thousands of daily active users. And he's doing this in an hour, and it is reliable. And it's like 2 months worth of iterations. And it is really, actually, I had somebody else on the podcast. His name is Amos, and he's trying to get. So he started a company. It was like 6 months ago, and in 6 months, I think he got it to $1 million ARR. And he believes that he can, with AI. He only has 3 people. He only has 3 people. Got to $1 million ARR in 6 months with this new AI company. And he believes that with AI, he can have each employee generate $1 million worth of ARR just with AI. And that's like, no, sorry. $10 million of ARR with each employee. He believes that he can have each employee. So with his 3 people, he's hoping to I don't know where he is now. He's hoping to very quickly get to $30 million ARR with just his 3 people. And, I mean, like even like a company like Midjourney has a shockingly low amount of employees.
I think that's going to be, that's the trend. That's a trend. I mean, I don't know how anyone can rationalize having huge teams. Like, for example, we've spent an ungodly amount on Rankability 1. We're calling it Rankability 1. Okay. The first version of Rankability. And we worked with the dev shop. Hopefully they don't listen to this. And we spent a lot of money, man, like a lot of money. And over the last 6 months, my partner and I have just been looking at it and we're like, what are we doing? Like, this is like because I've been building applications for the last 6 months outside of Rankability, and like they're working and they're doing what they need to do. And so we looked at all of our this year's last expenses, and we looked at where all the money was going: bug testing, 1,500 hours in meetings.
Oh my God.
And you go down the list and you're like, okay, I think maybe we should think about doing something different here. And
a lot of devs are sleeping on AI tools too. They're just not using them.
But of course they are.
Well, no, they're not using them. They're not using them to the extent that they should be using them.
Well, but I'm saying a lot of them are putting their head in the sand too. Like they think, I see it all the time on Reddit. Oh, the AI can't code like humans.
Yes.
I saw the same thing about copywriting too. Oh, AI can't write copy. And look at it now, right? Look at it now. Most people can't even write a single word on their own without going into ChatGPT, right? And so it's the same thing with this. Like it is, there's only one direction it's going. It's not going to get worse. It's only going to get better. And I can tell you, I started vibe coding. It was actually someone from my academy. We were on a call and he was like, hey, have you tried this Replit thing? And I'm like, no, I've never tried it. And then so I just decided to try it. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like it blew my mind. And this was like, I think this is maybe May or June of 2025. And I have been obsessively using it every single day since then. And I can tell you from that point to now, we're not talking like it's 2 times better. It's 100 times better in 6 months.
I'm really curious. Have you used it to make linkable assets, like web apps that are
easy?
Awesome. What have you done?
Yeah. I've done a ton. On Rankability, we've got a bunch of free tools that we've built using it, and super easy. Got a plagiarism checker, an AI checker. We've got, what else do we have in there? Oh, we have a query fan out builder that's free. So all kinds of stuff.
When you put out a linkable asset, how do you actually like get awareness to it? Are you just dropping it on Product Hunt and beta list? Like, what are you doing?
So if So usually for like my brand, I'm doing more experimental stuff, but for for a client, it's much more structured. So usually what we're doing is we're looking at kind of like, first thing we look at the competitors, number one. And so sometimes it's looking at competitors in the specific industry or pulling from our database of like proven linkable asset kind of frameworks. And the thing that's been the most successful is pulling, pulling ideas that have been proven to attract backlinks and then applying that same framework to a different industry, right? So like, for example, in the SEO industry, if you decide you're like, okay, I'm going to build a ranking factors case study, right? Well, that's been played, right? You're not going to get, like, you might get some links, but like, you're not going to get the same amount of links that Brian Dean did when he did his 200 ranking factors. It's just not going to happen. You weren't a first mover. You're not going to get, even if you did 5 billion ranking factors, it's just not going to hit the same way. But if you took that same concept and applied it to a different industry, take the same framework that you know works and apply in a different industry, that works really well. We've seen that work really, really well because usually, like the SEO industry is wildly competitive and marketing in general is really competitive. But as soon as you venture into plumbers, like it's like wide open as far as the content you can build. It's unbelievable. So usually what we're doing is we're looking at proven frameworks. That's the most important. So 80% of the link bait we create has already proven validation. Like 100% we know that it has a high probability of getting links. And then once it's done, then we can go and do outreach to obviously the targets that are most likely to link to it. Which would not be your competitors, right? It's going to be the journalists and various things. The other 20% would be more experimental stuff, which you don't know if it's going to work, but it's a gamble, right? Because if it does, sometimes those produce 80% of your links. So it's one of those things. But that's usually the process is using proven frameworks typically. Yeah.
Are you thinking about, I don't know if you thought about this. So this is actually something that I'm actively doing. Like literally in the background, I have a deep research on what's the best way to structure a new company in order to do what I'm going to describe to you. Well, actually, just straightforward, to hire somebody and guide them in terms of like marketing and product and growth. But they're using vibe coding to build a SaaS, and my marketing knowledge to scale it with SEO, to scale it with social media. In terms of like how to iterate as well, but they're this like hungry founder, and I literally like have a deep research on like what's the best way to structure this company in terms of like an equity pool. What do I give to them? How long is the vesting? Like what should their salary be? All sorts of things. But I just very strongly believe that like we are in this magical period where if you are good at SEO, you can make a $1 billion company with a vibe coded tool. I mean, vibe coded it at the beginning, and then you have to get certifications and all sorts of things. Are you experimenting with creating your own software company in a niche outside of search engine optimization where it is really easy? Because like you said, SEO is a very competitive niche. If you're trying to make an SEO tool, it's just hard. It's like lots of other people are trying that too. But if you're trying to make an ed tech or a fintech, like the marketers in that space are not savvy like the marketers in the SEO space. Is that something that you're thinking about or trying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to stop people from building software in the SEO space, but I'll tell you, this is a bloodbath.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I would be very careful.
Nathan, I literally had Rand Fishkin on the show a couple of months ago, and he's like, I just wouldn't do it in SEO anymore. It's too competitive. It's just, he's like, he said, I don't like competitive spaces. And it's like, what? Yeah. Why do you want to play in that bloodbath?
No, and I mean there is rationale for like going into competition because it's already a proven market. There's buyers. Like there's reasons for that. Like in the context of agency, a lot of people wonder like, what niche should I go into for my agency? It's better to go into a niche that's already proven to buy SEO services, like not underwater basket weaving, like go into personal injury. Like it makes a lot more, even though it's more competitive. It's just it's a much better bet in that way. But the short answer is, funny enough, the first project I built with vibe coding was not in the SEO industry. It's called Collect Read. So what happened was, it was actually kind of good timing. When I started doing this, I saw that Pocket, where you could save your links. It's a little browser extension. Have you heard of it?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a little browser extension. And like, let's say you're on a website, you just click the little browser extension, it saves your link in your pocket.
Oh, cool.
And this was like this, it was an application that was its own application for a long time. And then Mozilla bought it. Then for whatever reason, they decide they're going to shut it down, right? They're like, oh no, we're going to shut it down. So I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. So what I did is I immediately used my SEO skills and I ranked for pocket alternatives, like in a couple of, probably it was like 24 hours, right? So I leveraged my existing, at the time it was Gotch SEO. So I just built a pocket alternatives post, ranked for that. Then I went and I vibe coded a solution that was an alternative to Pocket. It's called Collect Read. So I built that, and I'm not kidding, within a week, I was already getting buyers. I was getting sales.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then, but here's probably what, I don't know if you've experienced this. People will literally reach out to you and say, this is almost completely what I'm looking for, but can it do this? And then they request these different features. So then you just vibe code the new features. And then you have these new features that you can put up more SEO landing pages for.
Yep.
Or you do, I love this story. I tell it on like every episode. You do what the co-founder of Twitch did, which is co-founder of Twitch actually asked people why. Why are you streaming yourself playing video games on Justin.tv? Because he was co-founder of Justin.tv and people were streaming themselves playing video games on Justin.tv. And they said, we want to make money playing video games. And enough people said that he went and built Twitch specifically for people to make money playing video games, and that became a $1 billion company. And yeah, I'm so hyped about this space.
If you can identify problems and you're willing to build, you can do stuff now, right? And like I can tell you, for me, like ideas have never been a problem for me, to be honest. I've never had an issue with ideas when it comes to SEO or marketing or business. I just never had that issue. My issue is always the gatekeeping when it comes to developers. And I'm telling you, I could give a small example of this. Like I had a link bait idea one time and I went into Fiverr and like I talked to a bunch of people who could build it for me. $10,000, $20,000, $25,000. And it was like a simple one use case type of link bait. And I'm like, seriously? Like 10 grand for this? Like they're just throwing numbers out there, right? That doesn't mean anything. And, that's not the case anymore. Right. And if I was a developer, I'd be really scared. Honestly, I would be really scared because people who have ideas, especially hungry founders, they can actually pursue those ideas. They can build functional prototypes that they can, as an MVP, and actually test it and see if there's demand. If it's not, switch to another one. You can run multiple MVPs in 1 month. You could probably launch 30 MVPs, all kind of like segmented out around the same idea.
Do you follow Peter Levels at all?
A little bit.
You remember?
Yeah.
One of the first, it's kind of funny. One of the first things that he did that made him well known was he did 12 startups in 12 months. And now we're at a stage where you can do 12 startups in I don't
12
know.
12 days.
No, I was saying a day. Because you can really, you can make it, because these are little MVPs that he's launching, and you can do that in a day or an hour.
Yeah, well,
Not
and
an
I'll
hour,
tell you,
but
and I'll tell you too, with Replit, for example, they've added bug testing. So you turn on bug testing, and it will actually, you can watch it go and test the feature that it just built. You actually watch it live. It's creepy. It's really, really creepy. How is that even doing that? I don't even really want to know what's going on behind the scenes, but it works. It's pretty unbelievable. It runs these bug tests and it comes back and then you go run your manual kind of test and see, and it's working. It identified issues during the bug testing. It fixed the issues during the bug testing and solved it. This was maybe 2 days ago. I had it run. It was running for 30 minutes. I gave it a whole task of things. It ran for 30 minutes. I went somewhere, came back. It completed the full task list and it was immaculate. I mean, and it cost me $8. And it built out huge. These weren't small little changes. These were significant changes for $8. All right. So you look at that and you're like, can I really pay? Should I really pay this developer $300,000 this year? I don't know. You start to think about those things, and I'm not anti-developer here. I'm just saying you have to see the reality of where we are today, and we're in a different world now. I do want to add one nuance to because you're kind of you're bringing two things together, which is SEO and obviously like the ability to create MVPs and businesses with it. My SEO mind just want to make sure to help people if they decide to go that route. And this is just because I've learned how to build these applications the right way, because I'm always thinking SEO first, right? So when I'm thinking like, how's the SEO gonna work long term here? Like that's where my mind goes. What you want to do on Replit is segment the two things out. So you have your website, that's a separate project, and then you have your application. What you don't want, this is the mistake I made in the beginning, is I did them all in one project. Do not do that. It's a massive, massive mistake. So what you want to do is you have your, let's say rankability.com is the website, right? Then you build out, platform.rankability.com. That is the application. That's where that lives. I know it seems really basic, but like I'm telling you, that will save so much headache 6 months from now when you're like, okay, now we got to jump on the SEO. And it's like, well, hold on a sec. You don't have the infrastructure now for that. You've built your whole application in the root domain. Now you're going to have to transfer. I don't want that to happen. So yeah.
We've been talking about AI coding a lot. I want to briefly talk about AI copywriting. So using AI for SEO copywriting is one thing. Because like SEO copywriting, in a lot of cases, it just needs to be straightforward. You want to throw in your own experiences when you can. You need to proofread and make sure things are accurate. But I also see a lot of people using AI for posting on socials. So I want to hear if you are you using AI to have posts for X or for LinkedIn or for Threads, or is that written by you?
I do not use AI for my own content. Yeah. So that's one area where like I draw the line, because number one, it just sucks. It just isn't.
I'm glad that you say that.
It just isn't good. It's not good at being me, right? It just isn't. No matter what I give it, no matter what inputs, it's not me. And I need, when I put something out, it needs to be me, right? And for better or for worse, right? And so I think that's important. You can just tell when someone's using AI.
You really
it's
can.
Like, it's just like,
it's funny how people don't really realize, but it's so easy to spot.
Oh, so easy, especially when you say emoji. You just see there's a pattern. Yeah,
buzzwords.
Right. And it's also just like, it's always just kind of lame too, right? Like you look and you're like, this is just.
I feel like I got gypped out of my time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you actually, this person stole my time.
Right. And they lose a couple of points in your book. A little bit, right?
Definitely. A lot of points. A lot of points, not a couple.
So, and by the way, not to say I haven't tried. I have tried to see if I could make it work. But like on LinkedIn, X, those are the main socials I post on. It's always me, because I'm telling you, every time I'm like, I have it in the editor, I'm like, this isn't me. Delete, start over. So I've gone through those phases a few times. I've also gone through many phases of trying to use AI to create my YouTube scripts. And that also sucks. Oh, it's awful. Like I'll spend 4 hours working with the AI to make it be like me. And then by the end of it, I look at it, I'm like, this is just, why did I just spend all my time putting this AI slop together that doesn't even sound like me, doesn't flow like me, doesn't talk like me. So that doesn't work either. There's only one hack I've seen that works, is if you're writing an article, okay, this is really, really like useful. Instead of writing the article, just record a voice memo. So like record a voice memo about the topic and just unload your thoughts into that. Then feed that into the AI and let it kind of rework it and make it better. That's really, really effective. Like you can do a lot more with text-based content that's more long form and stuff like that. But when it comes to YouTube scripts, like I don't know if you script your videos, but for a lot of my videos, I will script them.
I have outlines.
Yeah, but I'll do like I do a full script. So like
I would say
like words.
Occasionally I do that up to the words, and people can see me sometimes like reading the words. I try to like make it look authentic, but most of the time it's an outline. But
I think it's dependent on your style, right? So like for me, if I'm doing a talking head, like I'm going to read the full script, but even then, like the script, it sounds like me because I wrote the script.
Yes.
Right. So that's the key. But yeah,
I
we
will
can talk.
say
Yeah. Yeah.
there's actually one crazy hack that works really well with AI and social media, and it is threads on X or on or like meta threads. And so what you do is you take, and it works especially well when you have like an interesting podcast that you made, or interesting like a talking head that you made. You take that transcript, you give it to ChatGPT, and then like a lot of people actually do this. They make those viral threads on X that you see using AI. The trick is you actually have to go in, you have to remove the M dashes, you have to remove like the things that make it sound like overly AI written. And then, and this is super important, then you put in lots of images and videos. When you have lots of images and videos, people forget that it is written by AI because they are seeing the images and videos and it is helping them understand and it is making a point, and people are just not paying attention that it was written by AI. And you're proofreading the whole thing. You're proofreading the whole thing, and hopefully it's an interesting subject matter. And like the AI can make a crazy good hook for the thread, and you are augmenting it with multimedia, which makes it feel actually way more human. And that's where it works really well. I've done that myself and I've gone viral doing that. And I made this on, I think, last week, and I just haven't had the time to post it, but it's a thread. Oh yeah. It's a thread on like some of the cool hacks that I know about AI SEO, about generative engine optimization. And I think the thread could do okay. And it was written by AI, but it was made off the transcript. Oh, no, it was made from one of my articles. Yeah. And that does pretty well.
Right. Yeah. But the original origin is you.
The original origin is me.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy? Yeah. You literally could take, like, if you, for example, someone could do this. Sorry.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
It's very easy. if you have a high performing video on YouTube, that like someone could take the transcript from YouTube, give it to ChatGPT, and make a really high performing thread on X.
Yep.
With the same.
I know. Yeah. Well, you can actually Notebook LM is actually even easier. You just go to Notebook LM. You can put the YouTube link directly from the video, and it will do it that way too. If you,
I like ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT's copywriting is like, it's my favorite. I don't think Gemini is as good. I think it's like it feels the most human.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had to rank them, I'd probably put like GPT 5.2, and then I would put Claude number 2, and then probably after that it gets pretty messy. So yeah, Gemini's really bad. I'm sorry, like its copywriting is not good. It's just not.
It's true.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. The one I was going to say too, because I know you were talking about like if you're using AI content, how does that look like for SEO purposes? So the thing that I found that's really useful if you're using AI content, there's kind of there's kind of 3 mechanisms that you want to have. So number 1 is relevance. That's actually quite easy to get to, right? You just study the top ranking results. You can do that. And obviously my tool does that automatically. So that's one piece. But after that's taken care of, the most important part is information gain and the knowledge base. So this is where you take your AI to the next level. And so one thing we're building in our new tool is we have a little information gain kind of like checkpoint before the content goes. And basically it asks you, depending on what the intent is, to provide some sort of unique elements about it. So if it's like we're building a commercial page for a dentist in Chesterfield, Missouri, what are the unique selling propositions? What are testimonials? What are the, like XYZ, right? And that helps create that unique content instead of just the straight AI slop that you'll get. That will be based on NLP, but won't be based on reality. And so like when you're creating these commercial pages, you want them to actually sell stuff, right? And so it needs to have the brand baked into it. And so that's how you like, if you use that element and then you also combine a knowledge base into it, that's like the ultimate formula to get really, really good outputs where you're like, hey, this is cool. It actually sounds like us. It talked about our products. It talked about our services. It injected testimonials. Like, then you look, you're like, I can give this to a designer or developer and put it live on the site. Like, or you can just give it to Replit, but either way. So yeah.
Yeah. Projects and that knowledge base is, I've had actually a lot of people who who use a lot of AI content, they said the exact same thing. Is you need that knowledge base.
Yes. Yeah. And ChatGPT projects is really useful for it. Not my favorite method, but it's certainly pretty good. Cause the downside of ChatGPT projects, it's very manual. It's very manual labor. So you got to like upload all the files and it takes a really long time. You got to organize all the files. Like the new version of our tool we're building, like it's already, a lot of it's like really integrated. So like you'll be able to enter a domain and it crawls your site, brings that into the knowledge base. And we have all these filtering to like get rid of all the privacy policy and all the stuff that's bad for ingestion and only takes in the stuff that's very,
This is
useful.
your tool.
Yeah, our tool. Yep.
Is it live?
It's in development. Yeah.
Okay.
So coming soon. Yeah, we're calling it, we're like Rankability is going through a massive overhaul right now. We've spent the last like 3 years spending a lot of money and not getting what we wanted. So now,
well, actually, I was going to ask you that takes me to a question. This is just something that I'm interested in, but probably a lot of other people would be interested. Are you replacing any employees with agents?
I'm not replacing any of my current employees because they're too valuable. That would never replace them. I'm definitely replacing contractors.
Contractors, yeah.
Yes, lots of contractors have been replaced. However, there's one area where I've actually invested more into humans. And this is actually a flaw that I discovered in my video production and design process. Okay. AI videos come a long way. It's pretty cool. The AI image generation is a lot better. Like Nano Banana is pretty cool. Like with editing
Amazing
pictures. Yeah, it's really, really good. Even for thumbnail concepts, it's really, really good for that. But you still need a human to design stuff, I found. And to make it not look like AI, I mean, there's just that kind of like, I don't know if it's like we can somehow see it, but when it comes to the videos, like I have not found the video based AI stuff is very good. Other than editing, I think the editing capabilities are pretty good for the most part, like as far as AI, but it's like creating actual video and creating designs for the videos, like layering on, motion graphics and things like that. I have not found it to be very good at that yet. So we have a team that we actually work with an agency called Kimp, and we basically send all our design and motion design projects to them, and they handle it. I don't see that getting replaced anytime soon, honestly, because it's just too good. Like the gap is too big between AI
the gap is too big.
Yeah,
I have a human thumbnail designer. I have a human editor, and I expect to continue to have humans for that actually for a while, to be honest.
Yes.
Because also, if everyone starts using AI for thumbnails, everyone's just going to be using the same thumbnails. Exactly. You saw that actually. I think it was when ChatGPT released their new image model, or their most. It was the image model. It was the specifically, it was the image model that could do Studio Ghibli really well. And then you saw just everyone was doing these Studio Ghibli thumbnails. Ghibli, I don't know. Everyone was doing these thumbnails, and it got played out so fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of people still do them.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. So if everyone's using the same tools, everyone's getting the same outputs.
Yeah.
So, it is. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big piece. And I would say for me, like, we're calling our new version of Rankability 2, because now we're doing things. I hate to say this, I just feel bad saying this, but like in the last 5 days, I have shipped more stuff than we shipped possibly in the entire year.
Exciting.
I mean, it's just, it's like, and we have to.
It's awesome that you're doing it yourself too. Because you're building this.
Yes.
You're vibe coding this.
Yeah, and my partner. Yeah, the two of us. Yeah, together.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we're building, because I have good experience with this now. So, but it's like I said, if you have ideas, you can actually make them come true now, which is very exciting. Like I've had so many ideas when it comes to SEO. I'm like, I would love to be able to do this, or I'd love to be able to do that. No, you got to wait 6 months, then it's going to go.
Wait, Nathan, I want to ask you. So you don't have any desire to like start a side thing, maybe with an operator who you hire in a different, like way easier niche, and use everything that you know about SEO and marketing to just dominate that way easier niche?
Not until I've dominated this one.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not. I have a mission in mind. So I have a very very clear destination I'm going to with this. So and I have to see it. I have to see it through all the way, right? And plus, there is the danger of
What's your mission? What's the vision that you have to see through all the
well,
way to?
I need to see rankability all the way through to complete all of solving the problems that I want to solve, right? And so for me, like rankability there's lots of kind of pieces to it. The first one is, um, I don't want to share too much, but there's
Oh
kind of phases
man,
to the,
we're
there's
about to
phases
get the sauce.
yeah, but well, okay. Well, the biggest one for me, I'll tell you kind of like the biggest phase that I need to get to first is search everywhere optimization. Okay. So that for me, that's where rankability is. That's like one of the biggest points I want to get to is where I can say this platform is truly a search everywhere optimization type of platform. Like I want to get to that point. And we have one, like our target market is agencies. So I also want the platform to be when an agency comes in, they say, this is for me. Right. And that's what we're building right now is to make sure that that's how someone feels. And they come, oh, this is for my agency. Right. And so, I just have too many open projects and too many problems that I have to solve in this market that I just can't abandon it yet. I mean, I don't see any, I don't, I think in terms of 7 years. And I only learned this actually from, I think it might've been like, I may be misquoting. It might've been the founder of MTV, but basically he said that if you're going to start a business, you have to think in terms of 7 years. Like don't even start a business unless you're
I did hear
years.
that. I forget. I heard that too. I forget who
Yeah.
I do it 10 years, but I remember now you're saying it, and I heard the 7-year thing. But
Yeah,
that's so true.
Yeah, and it's more just there's no rhyme or reason for the 7, but it's more just to say like no, like I'm going to commit to this because it's so hard to figure things out in any business. Like
Everything takes longer than you think it's going to take. It is
even
a
with
rule
AI,
of business.
even with AI, it
Yes.
still takes longer, right? Like
Even getting ready for something. How often do you think it's going to take you 10 minutes to get ready for something and then it takes you 20?
Yep, exactly. It always takes longer.
I joined this podcast right on time when it started. I thought I would be 10 minutes early or like 15 minutes early. Nope, I didn't.
Yep. Well, and
it
I
took
would
longer.
also like I've gotten to the point because I have so many battle scars and scar tissue from being in business now since 2013. When I start a project, I expect it to be incredibly difficult. And I just start from that perspective. This is going to be the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'm expecting it to be very, very hard. And then when something goes easy, I'm delighted. Right.
See, Nathan, I'm the opposite. I think it's gonna be a lot easier than it's going to be, but I have the like stupid persistence to just see it. I am so stubborn that I will just see it through regardless. But I always
think that's a good quality though for an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so stubborn. Like I mean like that. I compromise. I admit when I'm wrong. I'm the first one to say it. But if it's something that I feel should be able to be accomplished, I will not stop until it is accomplished. And I also have that like naive optimism where it's like, yeah, I could just like get a hungry founder and pay this person a salary and give them some vested equity, and then they're going to go and build a unicorn for me with my guidance.
Well, yeah. And by the way, I'm also very optimistic as far as where I'm going, right? Like I know where I'm going. I know the problems we're solving and I know we can solve them, right? Like I know that to be the case, but I think about like the execution, and that's what I'm talking about. It's like, cause I know execution's always harder than you expect.
Oh yeah.
And so going back to what you're saying, like, it's the curse of success, right? Someone who sells a company for millions of dollars, and then they go to try to start a flower company, right? They're a tech founder. Now they're starting, shipping flowers, and like, it doesn't work, right? Because they believe because they're successful in one thing, they'll be successful in the next. But the problem is the learning curve is so massive, right? In any industry. So for me, believe it or not, the safest bet for me is to stick to this industry, right? Because
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So
that's all I know. That makes a ton of sense. I mean, and I say this all the time, like most people, the mistake that everyone makes is they ping pong. They go from idea to idea, from niche to niche to niche. And they waste so much time thinking the grass is going to be greener that if they had just stuck with that one thing, they'd get to where they wanted to be way, way faster, and they would get there. And a
Yes.
lot of people go from idea to idea to idea, and they never even get there.
Yeah.
What I'm
yeah.
saying is a little bit different though, because I'm going to hire somebody who is literally going to go do that in a new niche, and I am going to just have like a very high level advising. But I don't, to be fair, like I haven't read the ChatGPT deep research to see if there's even any precedent for this.
Yeah.
And like I have this like research report to see if there is like real precedent for this. And I think there is. I mean, I think there is. It's like, how do the biggest companies with tons of business units operate and grow their business units? And like, how are ideas incubated within, like, new ideas, startups incubated within companies? And then what's like, how come the founders within the companies who incubate those ideas don't run away and do their own startups? And that's what I'm trying to learn right now, so I can do something like that. Yeah, so I can do something like that.
And I mean, I also think like right now this is all business rules don't apply anymore. Like I think like if you go and read business books right now and like, oh, this is how you build a business, like we're playing a different game now. Like I think right now this is a weird time where like if you want to be like a CEO and like you don't want to get your hands dirty and you want to do that, like I don't know if that's going to work very well going forward when you're up against people who are subject matter experts who have tools and they could have AI be their CEO. Like there's
but to be a little bit of a contrarian, but you'll probably agree with this, with AI, it's a lot easier to become proficient enough in the niche.
It's in any niche for sure. Yeah, you can become quite.
You won't
average.
become a subject matter
Yeah.
expert, but you can, like, with diligent learning and questions, within a week, you can become pretty knowledgeable.
I would say on that though, you can become knowledgeable about information.
Yes.
But you cannot
But you
become
won't feel the
knowledgeable
pain.
Exactly. Because I can read about how to dribble a basketball all day. All day. I know every detail about dribbling a basketball. Put me on the court with LeBron James. What's going to happen? He's going to destroy me. Doesn't matter. I could spend my whole life learning how to beat LeBron James. It will not make a difference. He will destroy me no matter what I do. Right? So there's a difference, right? Like that knowledge is, you're right though. Knowledge is a commodity.
Yeah.
Like information is a commodity for sure.
With some industries, I'm not going to go and like pay someone to make something in like medical technology.
No,
like,
or build rockets. Yeah. Like I'm not,
build exactly, or build rockets. But like with like simple like communication tools within like niches where there's not much downside to getting it wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
Where there's also like bad marketers. All right, I want to go back to to some of the fan questions. Yes. A little bit more SEO. This is from Jeff Mia King, who said, what is the biggest waste of time within SEO and GEO, generative engine optimization, for small service-based websites? How would you invest your time instead of that activity? I don't know what that activity meant, but like, yeah, the biggest waste of time in SEO and GEO.
Well, I would say the biggest waste of time is thinking that they're radically different. So that's kind of the first step is like, I'm a firm believer that 80% of AEO, GEO, whatever you want to call it, AI SEO is just SEO. That's about 80%. The other 20% is some new stuff, right? And so I think the most important thing though is if we're thinking about time wasters, the biggest time waster for a local business would be focusing all your time on your website. That would be a huge time waste because your website is not the most important variable for performance in local, right? Like we know for local, your Google business profile is the most important thing. And not only that, the Google business profile, we have a lot of proof of this now that Google AI mode and Gemini and even AI overviews heavily rely, when it comes to local queries, heavily rely on the Google business profiles. So Google's products are all intertwined. So like if you go into AI mode and you search who's the best plumber in Chesterfield, Missouri, you'll see that the citations are all just Google business profiles, right? So it shows that like your Google business profile is literally the lead domino for driving visibility across all of Google's products for local queries. So if you do that well, you're going to be in good shape, right? Which means obviously getting reviews and being in the location you're serving and all the basics. But after that, that's where things get weird, okay? Because as soon as you venture into ChatGPT, you're playing a different game altogether because ChatGPT does not use Google business profiles. And we've seen this across so many local queries that it literally does not use Google business profiles. What it will use though is third-party platforms in that industry. So, and I'm speaking in terms of where it retrieves its information, assuming it's not using the static corpus, just pure retrieval, which it does most of the time for local queries. So some of the things, like if it was a plumber, you'd likely see Angie and Yelp and Thumbtack and all these different platforms. So what we do is like, if we'll bring a client in and we'll run these queries across all these platforms. We'll do ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, Claude, all of them, right? We'll just run across all of them because what we're doing is we're extracting all the citations. So we try to extract at least 500 to 1,000 citations, and we put it all into a Google Sheet. Then from there, we say, okay, what are the most common sources of retrieval? And you'll see, it'll be like, okay, Yelp is used almost every time. Angie's used almost every time. And it will change depending on the niche. If it's a legal niche, you're going to see Avo and all the other ones. So, but what you do is based on that, you look at, okay, these are our 5 to 10 most important citations. Now let's spend our time here and get these right. So that's where you start to drive the review diversity to those platforms. Because if you do well on those platforms, then you can influence the other AI platforms. So that's the biggest, like the other 20% that I think is important. It's kind of funny though, because like if you should have already been doing that. So, but if you weren't, I will say like I'm guilty of this too, by the way. Like when we would do local campaigns, I would view citations as just like a little check mark activity, right? Like let's go build the citations, make sure the NAP's right, move on, right? But now I don't think you should do that. I think it's much better to like pick the 5 to 10 most important ones and actually like try to do SEO on your profiles on those platforms. Actually try to drive some reviews on those platforms. And it's the same, it's not just local too, by the way. It's also if in SaaS, like you're going to see G2 and Capterra popping up all the time, right? So yeah, that's what I would be thinking about.
How are you doing the prompting?
So we'll take a seed. So it might be like, plumber, Chesterfield, Missouri, and we convert it to natural language. So and this is synthetic, by the way, it's synthetic prompts. So we'll convert it to synthetic prompts. And I'd be like, who are the top 5 plumbers in Chesterfield, Missouri right now? So we always add like that modifier at the end because that usually forces retrieval. Because the AI will say, oh, okay, it needs to be something current. So I can't just rely on my static corpus. I need to go to the web. So usually that's usually kind of like the framework. And then we'll split it up based on different intents and various things. But usually just build from a seed and create a bunch of, and you can just use ChatGPT, create me 20 synthetic prompts around, this seed, and ChatGPT will do that for you if you want to do it.
And then how are you tracking? You said you're putting everything into a Google Sheet. Like, are you outsourcing this activity? Do you have an agent doing this? Like,
yeah. So it can be done manually. It certainly can. We don't do it manually, but it can be done manually. If you're going to do it manually, let's say you didn't need to do this often. You're just trying to benchmark, right? You're just trying to like, I want to see where we are right now. Then we'll get to work. What we do is we'll create a dedicated email address and we'll create accounts across every single platform. And then, because we don't want to have any baked in personalization or anything in the account, right? So we'll go and then we just run, separate chats for every single query. Right. So then we can actually see what's going on across all.
But who is operating those chats? Who is the person behind the computer? Is it an agent?
And a team member? Yeah, a team member. Yeah,
okay,
yeah. That's assuming if we're going to do it manually, by the way. But
is that what you do or no?
No, we use a tool.
Okay, what tool do you use?
Yeah, Rankability.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah. Didn't want to plug it, but I just want to make sure,
That's
yeah.
like, if you're using your own tool, say you're using your own
Yeah.
tool. Why
Yeah.
not?
So, but the, it
Is
can,
it so other people can use rankability for this too?
yeah. So actually the launch of the AI search tracking, I think, is next week.
Okay.
So yeah, but we've been using
Cool.
we've been using it for the last like 6 months,
Cool.
testing it. So, but yeah, it's way easier. And I actually have a training program where I show people how to do AI search tracking inside of my academy. And like, it shows you exactly how to do it, but it's like, it's tough work if you do it that way. Like you got to build a Google sheet template, and then you got to track all the AI answers plus a citation separately. Then you got to feed that into a Looker Studio dashboard. And it's tough work, man. I mean, like, just use a tool. Like, even if you don't use our tool, just use a tool, for the love of God. It's so much work. It's not worth it, unless it's only worth it if you're just trying to get benchmarks. That's the only time where like, it's like, I just want to get benchmarks. Here we are. Then we're just going to execute for 6 months. That makes sense. But for tracking purposes, that would not be a wise idea. So yeah.
I have a fun question. What's the craziest SEO geo thing you saw last year in 2025? Like, what is the number one thing where you're like, holy F, what? Oh my God. I can't believe this.
As far as tactics, or as far as what people are
Just
saying?
anything in SEO or like generative engine optimization.
Man, that's a really good
like,
question.
cause I have one, but like, I'm like,
I have a good one. I just thought
okay,
of.
good. Yeah, please.
Okay. So this one's actually quite hilarious. All right. So I knew we were launching our AI search tracking tool. Okay. So like, I knew it was going to be sometime soon. Actually, this was maybe like 6 months ago. I knew we would eventually launch it. I didn't know when, but I knew we would. And so I was like, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing SEO now. So what I did is I went and I built, 22 best AI search visibility tools. Like, I built a listicle about this on Rankability. And I knew that would influence the AI if I were to rank that asset. So then what I did is I built that pillar asset. Then we started building support around that asset. So it'd be like peak AI review, peak AI alternatives, peak AI versus Scrunch versus Rankability. And I think we built out maybe like 120 assets all around that one cluster, right? And my goal was to influence the AI platforms. So come to find out, the most hilarious part about this is we did influence AI platforms, and Rankability gets recommended as a top AI search tracking tool that no one has ever used. So and I was doing it to prove a point on top of it, which is like, these platforms can be influenced. They are not as smart as you think. They are heavily influenced by the inputs that they receive. And I'm purely talking about in terms of when retrieval is used. Obviously, disregarding static corpus, you can't influence that, but at least in real time. But when it comes to retrieval, it changes. You can morph that response that it spits out. And and now here's the funniest part about this. Okay. So because we show up a lot in AI search, when people search like best AI search tracking tools in ChatGPT or whatever, even in Google, we've been getting natural links. Okay. So our tool's been showing up in listicles about AI search tracking tools, recommending us, even though you're not live. No one's ever used our tool.
Yeah.
But they're doing it because they're using the AI to create their content, and the AI, it's like reinforcing this over and over. So now with more listicles, it reinforces us more and keeps us stable.
I had the same exact thing happen. I have an accountability SaaS that I made a while ago, and I did bottom of funnel SEO for it. And some big like accountability motivation influencer was just searching for like an accountability tool to recommend to her audience. She saw my bottom of funnel SEO landing page. I don't even think she bothered and tried it, but made a post about it using all of my language from the bottom of funnel SEO landing page and from like the homepage. And then it was like a flood of signups and users. Like, and she didn't even try it. And it's the same thing. Like, people are doing research with AI. They're seeing your tool and they're like, all right, this fits this
Yep.
checks the boxes that I need. I'm going to give a link to it. So wait, in terms of like actual execution to get those results, so you made the 22 best AI search trackers.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went and we actually tested a lot of them and then made a list based on like who's the best. And of course, I know this is highly controversial, but we put ourselves
It's
number
not
one.
controversial. It's not
But
controversial. You saw
yeah, but
Glenn Allsop's research report on this. That's what you're supposed to do.
yeah, and like I'm not like I know people think it's like wrong to put your brand as number one in a listicle, but the thing is, if you actually believe it, I don't think it's wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
So and like I believe we are the best, so I'm going to put us
Yeah.
number one. So if
Yeah.
you know that's and but if you're
but
like,
then you said you
yeah,
built support pages around it. So
correct.
so like what? So basically, what like each H2 went to its own page, like you said, like peak AI alternative, and then it recommends Rankability as the alternative.
Correct. So yeah, you nailed it because basically when we launched the first listicle, it was all
Were you? I'm sorry. Another question.
Yeah.
Were you linking to the competitor tools on that listicle, or were you only linking to these alternative pages?
Good question. So on the first, so that when we launched the pillar, we were linking out. Okay.
Okay.
But the long-term goal was we would build dedicated review pages for each of those. So once we built out the 22, 23 review pages, we swapped out the external links and swapped it for an internal link to the review page.
Were they orphan pages before you internal link to them from that review article?
No, because we would just basically we would publish one and then we would swap. So it would get that internal link coverage to the review.
Did you create a hub? Did you like I guess my question is that article the hub page for these alternative pages, or is there another hub page?
So basically, no, that is like the center of everything is that one listicle. And basically the way that it works is like, we kind of look at it as like each competitor is an individual cluster within that broader cluster.
And that's so funny that you made this article and every single 22 H2s in that for each tool goes to a dedicated alternative page that just says that your tool is the best or that your tool is the alternative to it. That's
Correct.
awesome. How were you building links to the pillar article, to the 22 listicle?
Yeah, so this is a little going back to our link bait discussion earlier. I built out one type of link bait for this cluster, which was how much do AI search tracking tools cost? So we did a bunch of research and found how much they cost on average. So that ended up being like the pillar kind of link bait. And because at the time of me creating this, these tools were insanely expensive. They were like I think I won't name names, but there were some like $700 a month or $3,000 or $5,000 a month. And like, we're building the tool and we're like, how in the world could they even be charging that much? There's no way, like, cause we know how it works. like we know how to get this data, or like, there's no way they could charge that much. So I created that post. And so that ended up being the focal point for link acquisition. I also had an unfair advantage, which I will admit, which is I had spent, so when I started Rankability, I didn't create any content on it. So what I did for the first year, all we did was build links. So you just spent the first year just building links, because I'm a big proponent of like, there's no point of publishing content until you have authority. So we just built links for an entire year. Then I started to do it. But then the next level of this, which is once again, unfair advantage. I've been in this industry for a long time. I took my original domain, gotchseo.com, that I started in 2013, that had a DR of 72, and we 301 redirected it to Rankability. So,
wow.
So yeah, so that helps a little bit. Yeah. So
wait, but were you building links specifically to this article?
The pillar one, not so much, more the linkable asset, and then using internal links to drive link equity to the assets that are not as linkable. That's usually my strategy. I usually use like a reverse silo. So I create some sort of linkable asset, and then I flood link equity via internal linking to the ones that are not as linkable. So
what did like that anchor text look like? Just maybe the title of the article, and you have that in the link. You have that at like the bottom of the linkable asset or something, or
Yeah. So our like now what we do is we very rarely ever repeat internal anchor text. So we almost always try to vary it as much as possible. We found that like when you repeat this, like if you do blue shoes, blue shoes, blue shoes, blue shoe, it just doesn't seem to hit as
Spammy.
well. It's super spammy. And so we try to do like more natural language. So it might be like the keyword might be in the anchor text, but there's also a little extra fluff around the anchor text as well, right? So kind of like a natural language. Sometimes and sometimes the keyword's not even used in the anchor text. Sometimes be like, just here's the review, or here's the article, or like, so some generic based stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, real natural. Like the number one rule for us is we don't repeat anchor text. That's it. So yeah.
Cool. You said that you spent a year building links. What are your 3 favorite link acquisition techniques?
Oh man, that's a good question. I would say probably depends on the industry. So in SaaS, it's a little bit easier. Links are easy to get in SaaS. Like it's much easier. Like we were able to get on a lot of listicles. I had one of my outreach guys going out and finding like best SEO tools, best content optimization tools, and like just reaching out to them, getting links that way. I do like niche edits. I think they're useful when they're on good websites, but there's a lot of spam there as well. The other one that I actually really like, which isn't always feasible for clients, is using your personal brand as a link acquisition technique. And it's very, very powerful because you can go into featured or quoted and you can respond to these queries. And the hit rate is, for me, it's pretty high because like I guess.
Dude,
yeah,
I had a 72% acceptance rate on featured.
Yeah, mine's high. I think mine's around 90% or something like
Oh,
that. But
man.
I'm saying, but I'm saying like it's not scalable, and clients are not easy to get them to answer. So there's a workaround for that.
I did that, but I did that before I was big. I think featured is very generous because like you're paying for featured, and so like featured wants you to get links. It is in featured's best interest.
Yeah.
Like help a reporter out and source of sources, those are more competitive. Those are free. But the best journalists are on those platforms. Like yes. I got a Healthline link from Help a Reporter, and it was just everything just went up.
Yep. Yeah. And one good link is the equivalent of 100 mommy blogs.
It's crazy.
And that's why I've been telling people recently, because it's like, even now, with AI, you don't actually even need a link, which is the craziest part. Like you can influence the AI just by having a brand mention in a listicle on a very authoritative website, right? That actually can influence the AI. So, and in fact, the link can also, if let's say you do get a link, it can be sponsored and no follow, and it still will influence. So
yeah, that's true.
And so I've been telling people like, don't think about link building the old way anymore. Just think because it used to be like we would build links to build authority, right? You just didn't matter. Mommy blog, whatever, build authority. That would get you where you need to go. But I think now it's like, it is more about quality over quantity more than ever.
Do good marketing.
Exactly. It's just good marketing. Promote your brand.
Are you doing press releases?
We don't really do press releases. I know there's some people that claim that they influence the AI platforms, but I haven't found that to be, I don't have enough data to prove that that's true. Especially the more competitive the queries get, you never see press releases as a source of retrieval, like very rarely, because press releases don't rank well in traditional search. Like very rarely do you see a press release outranking like a website.
It has to be a branded term or a term that's not very competitive.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So
yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, you've been teaching search engine optimization since 2016 before then?
I mean, actually probably, sorry, my daughter's letting loose out there. I mean, I started doing SEO in 2011. So that's when I started my first website. And then I started Gotch SEO in 2013. And I started blogging on Gotch SEO around that time. And it was really like, I was just creating like case studies to like share my experience so I could get clients, right? So I'd be like, hey, funny enough, like here's how I ranked, or I went from position 30 to number 1 using spun content. I think that was one of my first case studies.
Wow.
And so,
Spun content.
yeah, spun content back then. And so I would create these case studies, and like, I didn't know if anyone would read them. And then people were like, started, I guess, reading them and liking them. And so I guess technically I've been, if you want to call it, educating since then, but I didn't start I didn't start my YouTube channel until 20.
The Academy was Gotch SEO Academy was 2016.
Correct. 2015, 2016 was the first version. Yeah. Yep.
What do your most successful students or clients do different from everybody else?
Oh, there's a lot of clear reasons why some are more successful than others. I'll take one of my students just as an example. Jared, his name's Jared Tangier, runs an agency. He joined the academy and he was still working a day job, and he was just trying to like get his feet on, trying to get an agency going. So he joined, and I am not kidding. Okay. There's only a few guys that have done this. I've done over 500 coaching calls, 500. Okay. He's been on every single one. Every single one. Okay. So that's the first thing, is like taking it seriously. Like you're here to win. You're showing up. You're iterating. You're asking questions. You're trying to get better. That mentality, I think, is really important, right? So that's like the first, like the mentality and like the consistency of showing up. But that's not enough, right? You can do that. There's a lot of people that show up, but you also have to execute. Right. And so like an example, one, like the most thing I've seen, and I can also speak anecdotally for myself, like based on any goals I've achieved, like it's the work, right? If someone says, if you come to a coaching call and you say, hey, I've got this issue, I've got this client that's, not working, it's not ranking, and like, help me out. And I'm like, okay, here's what you do. Boom, 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 boom. Here are the 5 steps. Go do this. And then you come back a week later and I'm like, hey, did you go and do the thing? And they're like, oh, I had to go on vacation, and then I had to, you see it, right? But it's different with someone with Jared. He comes back and next week he's like, oh, I fixed that problem. Here's my next problem, right? And then next problem and the next problem. And they just keep solving it over and over. And that repetition of like problem solve. Oh, and it's like thousands of repetitions. I think there is no shortcut for that, right? AI is not going to do it for you. No one else is going to do it for you. Like you got to go and do it. You have to actually experience. You have to actually see with your own eyes. Like, for example, I have very intricate systems on how to do SEO, like down to the most granular detail. And it still doesn't matter though, because at the end of the day, you still got to open up the tool and you still got to get in there and you still got to do some stuff. Even if I'm guiding you, you still got to go in there and do it. You got to do something and see like, ooh, what just happened there? Or what just happened here? Like, oh, hey, that worked, or hey, that didn't work. And there's no shortcut for that. I wish there was. And then like, I'm learning this in SaaS now. Like I basically just got my MBA in SaaS, spending $700,000, like a very expensive MBA to learn the SaaS industry. Okay. I don't regret it. Because now I know the mistakes that have been made. Now I can move on and I can be better. So, I certainly wish there could be a shortcut for all that, but that's the difference maker. Right. And also being consistent. Yeah. Being consistent and patient as well. So
actually it's funny that you say that. John Mueller said the number one thing in SEO is consistency. He said SEO, this is what I think he said. He said SEO lives and dies by consistency.
I mean,
that's literally like his words. And,
yeah. Well, I mean, and I see it even when I do audits on some sites. The first thing I will do is I go into Ahrefs and I look at 2 things. I don't look at their traffic. I don't look at anything else. I check off traffic. I check off keywords in the little dashboard area, and I look at 2 things: referring domains and organic pages. And I look at how those are growing over time. And 9 times out of 10, sites that are not doing well, they're not growing. They're usually declining, right, in those areas. And they say, why is my traffic going down? Traffic is a lagging outcome, right? Like money, revenue, traffic, those are all lagging outcomes. Your body, how we look right now, is a lagging outcome, right? It's all lag. So I don't focus on the lag. I can't change the lagging stuff. I can change though the inputs, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I look at. As I look at those inputs, and I say, listen, you haven't acquired a link in 9 months. like, we got to start
Yeah.
getting some links, right? You haven't published a blog post in 11 months. This is not some magical formula here. Like, we just got to get the ball rolling. And funny enough, the opposite is also true. When I see sites that are killing it, it's consistent growth, consistent organic pages, new referring domains. They're growing together at the same speed. It's just a kind of a proven formula, right? So yeah.
Nathan Gotch. I actually have like a million more questions, but this has been great. And I hope that we can do them on many more episodes to come. I'm so grateful for you coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Good questions.
Thank you. Well, great answers. Where, I mean, you have like so many places to find you. Where should everybody go? What should everybody check out?
I mean, YouTube's a good spot. That's usually my more in-depth stuff. I got more clickbaity stuff on the social stuff. So, that is what it is. Engagement bait. But I think for more like tactical stuff, definitely YouTube. Yeah. If you want to really learn. Yep.
And all of your links will be in the description for this episode. Thank you again. For everybody who watched this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. For everybody who listened on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much for listening. This is episode 917 of The Edward Show. 917 days in a row doing this podcast. And I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.